Did you watch Money in the Bank?
Yes, I did.
All right. I don't know. So they start off with the Money in the Bank, the men's Money in the Bank match. They did a gimmick here where everybody was against Paul. So like they would all gang up and beat him up whenever he got in there.
That's kind of actually how they started the match, right? They all attacked him.
Right. So they're basically they were telling the storyline throughout this that like they're all working together to make sure Paul doesn't win. A lot of good. It's hard. I'm not going to go over this match. If you haven't watched it, then I'm not going to explain it to you because it's obviously very complicated.
Mm.
But basically, whenever LA Knight like made an effort to get the ladder, the place went crazy. Like he was absolutely like the overwhelming fan favorite to win this match. So basically, they came up at the end. Knight threw Priest off the ladder. Escobar ran in and took Knight's finisher. Knight tossed Nakamura out of the ring. Knight climbed the ladder, and the fans were going crazy. Priest came back, and they did the good spot where, like, you know, they had the camera shot was just like Knight climbing at the top of the rung, and then the very end, last minute, you see Priest has climbed up on the ladder and like is picking up for like a choke slam, but he turns it into a broken arrow, and then Priest climbs the ladder and wins the match.
Fantastic.
What'd you think of this?
What a swerve, bro, because this is what they did so awesomely. They had a close-up of Knight's face on the ladder, about to get the briefcase with the people in the back going crazy, right? About to be a feel-good moment, and out of nowhere, what WWE does so well, and like I said, I copied them, you just saw a hand on his throat, and it was Priest. I was like, oh my God, what a swerve. That was great. The crowd loves this guy. He's mega over. They know it, and I'm sure they're going to do something about it. Bro, Paul has a lot of heat. Let me tell you, after Roman Reigns and Dominik Mysterio, I think he's got the most heat, you know? I love when Paul did the frog splash on Priest, and the crowd was like, you still suck. That was great. That London crowd is great, like they usually are. And then, of course, that move with Ricochet, you know, that Spanish fly that if Paul wouldn't have tucked his head, he would have gone face first into the table. I don't know if somebody taught him that or if that was just intuition, but, you know, Ricochet ended up doing like a snap Spanish fly because if not, they were going to fall. And I read this thing, and I don't know if you guys read it. I'm assuming you did, where Paul was talking about that. You know, what happened and that he couldn't believe that Ricochet was going to, you know, just, you know, take him without him even knowing what was going on because he was new. But that's the business. You know, he'd rather, instead of you guys falling, he just made sure that it got done. It's not really a hard bump. Paul's just taking a front flip. You know what I'm saying? And he even said, oh, he's unprofessional, which I'm assuming he was working when he said that.
So the next match was the women's tag title match, and I didn't really pay attention to this until I saw that Shayna Baszler turned on Ronda Rousey at the end here and cost them the tag titles. And Raquel Rodriguez and Liv Morgan win the tag titles. I'm not I actually listened to the explanation on Raw,
right?
But this is just an unconvincing turn out of the blue that doesn't have a lot of weight behind it because I think they're just doing it just to do it.
Right.
So
Meltzer reported that they're doing it because Rousey's injured. I've also read that she's out of here after the summer. So,
well, either way, do something logical. Why she turned on her? It was just out of nowhere, nothing. Just like
build
okay,
up,
and then you go, okay, let me wait for Raw, and then you heard it on Raw, and you're like, I've always felt that they threw these two girls together, Raquel and Liv Morgan. They don't seem to have much chemistry except that they hug a lot. Raquel's been there a while with almost zero character development. I've always said it. What's her gimmick? Okay, she's a big, powerful girl, but what's her gimmick? Why? I don't understand nothing about her. They haven't done a real good job explaining her. At least Liv, they tried to explain that she's crazy and she's, you know, like a badass, which I don't buy either. So yeah, I did like the commentary, kind of asking the same questions we were, Disco, like why did this happen? That came out of nowhere. So good job there instead of acting dumb.
Gunther versus.
It says here it was probably the reason there was no buildup is because I think Ronda just let them know that she wanted out and she wanted her last.
Bro, you could have done a buildup in the vignette starting the show. They're in the back. They're in the locker room. They're having words.
Back and
they,
forth.
They did nothing. They had time. There's no justification. I mean, they have the resources. It ain't like AAA where people can say, well, why didn't you do this or why didn't you do that? Dude, we don't have a lot of money in AAA. We don't have a lot of people. AEW and WWE does. This type of, especially as well written, the shows that they've been doing, this should not have happened. That's really all I'm saying.
It could have been
Gunther versus Matt Riddle for the Intercontinental Championship. We're already talking way too much about this show.
I know.
I didn't know there was a time limit on how long you can talk, but I'll put a timer on.
Like, I don't. A lot of these segments are kind of like, you know.
Well, that's what
Gunther
people pay for, to listen to this. Yeah.
But it sounds like repetitive. Like it doesn't really, you know.
I only talked once on it, but go ahead.
Gunther versus Riddle. They did a gimmick here where Riddle was selling the foot that they kept beating up. So Gunther basically beat him in pretty short order. Not a long match at all for a pay-per-view. 7 minutes 45 seconds. After the match, Drew McIntyre comes down to a huge pop, and he stares down Gunther. And then Gunther hit McIntyre, and they dropped him with the Glasgow kiss. And McIntyre did the countdown, and then put Gunther down with a Claymore kick. And then McIntyre picked up the Intercontinental title and raised it above his head. Well, obviously Riddle is just an afterthought here because the angle here is Gunther versus McIntyre going forward, who is a pretty good, credible challenger for him, I think. What would you think of this? Anything?
Yeah, just the match was physical as you would expect. Riddle looks like he's wearing underwear with writing on it. Right before they went to the finish, Riddle had the guy in an arm, had him in an arm triangle, and then he picked him up. I don't know if you saw. Did you see the match, Di?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So he picked him up with his arm, right? And then when he slammed Riddle, and I don't know if you noticed this, but Riddle, instead of taking a flat back bump, he tried to break the fall with his arms like this, like his arms first. Bro, you have no idea how many guys I've seen themselves up trying to break a fall with their arms instead of with their back. So he risked real good injury there. But great aftermath. I like Drew coming out, and I think Drew in the Ring General are going to have a great physical match.
Next is Cody versus Dominik. There really wasn't anything that they were fighting for here, other than the fact that Dominik had kept slapping Cody. So Cody went over pretty decisively in just over 8 minutes. I mean, I'm not surprised at this result.
Sure.
They didn't need to do a long match, and Dominik doesn't get hurt by losing to Cody Rhodes. That's the way I looked at this. Any comment on this?
Yeah, I would agree with everything you said, and another high-profile match with Dominik, who has way less experience than Cody, and hung in there with him. I mean, he's still developing, but he's doing good. They've handed him the ball and thrown him in the deep end, and he's doing good.
So, surprise out of nowhere, John Cena comes out. Huge pop.
Right.
Wow, what a pop he got. And he basically came down to announce that the reason he was there was because the fans, the fans are so good that he wants to bring WrestleMania to London. That got a huge pop.
What a baby face line to get a huge pop, right?
Right. So then Grayson Waller comes out and interrupts him, and they have interaction, and basically it ends up with John Cena giving him the F5. I mean, there's not a lot of substance here. This is just a standalone interview for Cena to rile up the London crowd and get them excited about WrestleMania. And then he did a great job. I thought this was a little long, but he did a great job. Huge pop. They love Cena. Mega babyface promo. There was one part where Cena, again, kind of catering to the fans, which was most of the promo. He goes, "You are the show." And I thought to myself, no, they're part of the show. The talent is the show. Boom. The next was a women's Money in the Bank match. I don't want to go over it. It's obviously a typical Money in the Bank, but very, very creative finish. They did a spot where Becky Lynch and Bayley were fighting each other near the bottom they're on the opposite sides of the ladder, the ladder legs. Or the ladder steps, and they're trying to punch each other. Io Sky comes in and gets the handcuffs and handcuffs them to each other, so they can't do anything because they're hooked in between the rungs of the ladder. And then Io Sky climbs up and grabs the briefcase. Huge pop. So she's definitely got turned into a babyface these past couple weeks for sure. So do you any comment on this, Konnan?
Yeah, and it had been building, and in Puerto Rico is kind of where it exploded.
Mm-hmm.
This was a good match. There's a little sloppy in some spots, but this was a good match. And bro, Trish, she had a rough night with those ladders. I read somewhere she never been in a ladder match, but there was one where, you know, the one that they always do, which they actually did in the men's match, and I think they did it later on in this match, and it worked, where you're on top of the ladder and somebody pushes the ladder and you get hot shotted on the rope. Well, she almost went face first into the rope, like she didn't
showed up
measure
on
right.
Raw with like her face was fractured.
She broke her nose. Yeah.
That might have been it. That might have been it right there. Yeah. And I've said this before, and I'm not hating, I'm just stating, but Asuka, Io, and just about every Japanese, I don't know why, they all have like flabby or untoned legs. Like for some reason, they don't work them. But anyways, the people were chanting for Becky just like they were chanting for Bayley the other day, I think in SmackDown maybe. They also had another spot where Trish was on the ladder, and she did that spot, you know, where she stands on her head and she head scissors you. And so she head scissored somebody, and I think they were supposed to, I think it was Becky, and I think she was supposed to go straight into off the head scissors, straight into the turnbuckle, but again, they were short, and Becky kind of like landed on her feet and had to like step into the turnbuckle instead of flying into it. What was the other thing that I remember about this? Somebody gave Trish a rock bottom, and it was Becky, because she calls it the man slam. That looked really nice. And then they said during the match, and maybe you might know this, Joe, that Zelina's cousins with Red.
Yes.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. Yep.
The finish was great, creative and different, you know.
All right, let's finish. So next was Io Sky wins, and she got a huge pop.
Right. Yeah,
so
we talked about this, right?
Yeah. All right,
very creative finish with the handcuffs. Did not even see that coming.
Right. So next was Seth versus Finn, and basically the only gimmick is it's only 12 minutes long. It's shorter than even like a Raw or SmackDown match. But because they usually give those guys like 25 minutes sometimes. There's a title match on TV. But there's only 12 minutes, and then near the end, Priest came down with the suitcase, and basically just kind of like stayed there. But Rollins beat Baszler with the stomp and won. Then Baszler was kind of barking at Priest after the match, asking like basically.
No, but remember that the reason that he beat him is because Priest got up like he was going to cash in the Money in the Bank.
Right. I was going to say at the end, Balor's wondering like, okay, who are you trying to cash in on there, me or him?
Right.
So this whole match was just a progression of the Priest and Balor storyline. Okay,
right.
So not much really to talk about. Short match, like surprisingly short. You know,
good match. Rollins was selling his ribs by putting the K tape on it. You know, you never see anybody in wrestling or boxing wear that, but this is, you know, but it's a tool to get you sympathy in wrestling. And unlike when he wasn't selling his knee back on the day, which got him on the disco list, he was selling his ribs.
Right. So next was the main event, the Civil War. The Usos versus Roman and Solo. Good match, good storytelling. Basically, in the promo to set this match, Roman had said that he was going to like beat them, stack them, and pin them, like he did with Edge and those guys, right? So they were building up to that spot where it looks like it's going to be a decisive victory. Spears, Superman punches, the Samoan spike to the throat, everything. They laid him out. And they're stacking them to pin him. And Roman covers them, and they kicked out at 2. And it got a huge pop. And Roman was acting very surprised. And Roman kind of like, this is weird acting here, because Roman was kind of losing it as the story they were trying to tell. Like he was like having like a mental breakdown. To the point that Solo was like barking at Roman now. It's like, hey, get up, we got to beat, like Solo was kind of taking over. And Roman looked like he was like lost. So they put Jimmy Uso outside the ring. They put him on the announcer table. Solo went to like splash him through the announcer table. Jimmy moved out of the way. Solo went through the table. They come back in the ring. They did some a couple no selling of super kicks and spears back and forth. But basically the Usos double super kick Roman, big splash at the end from Jey Uso. 1, 2, 3. Roman gets pinned for the first time in over 3 years. What did you think of this? And then Roman acted afterwards like he was just he couldn't believe what happened. Go ahead.
Yeah, this was absolutely great. The fans were really into it. The commentary team was really into it. You know, kudos to everybody involved, writers, agents, producers, and the talent.
Was it a hell of a deal?
It was one hell of a deal.
Yeah,
And when Jay and Reigns squared off, bro, it had like a big match. You know what I'm saying? Like a big match feel. I love when Paul Heyman goes, "Hey, my tribal chief, do you want your son sitting at his table?" That was great. I love when Jay broke out like the homage to The Rock with the, you know how The Rock used to punch with the open hand, and then doing the Rikishi things. So he did an ode to Rock and to Rikishi. I love when the Usos hit him with the double spear, and it looked like he was going to pin, and Sikoa came in and saved him at the last moment. I mean, this just was a great match, bro. You know what I'm saying? And I guess we're going to see the Tribal Chief versus main event, right-hand man, whatever they call it.
Well, another
SummerSlam.
Very interesting gimmick they're doing for SmackDown on Friday. They're building these. It's the trial of the Tribal Chief.
Right.
Like the Tribal Chief has to go to the High Court now.
That's
I guess
they're
probably going to bring in the Samoans and stuff for things.
Right, bro.
Like,
you know what I love?
A big deal because he lost, so now he's going to go to a trial. So maybe he's not.
You know what
fit to be Tribal Chief. I don't know. It's good stuff. You know.
Right. You know what I loved? Right before the match, they had this video package on Edge that was great. Then they did a video package on the whole bloodline thing, but usually Paul Lee narrates it. They had like a Samoan. I don't know if it was his dad or who, but they had a Samoan narrating.
Video package.
Right.
Excellent.
Incredible.
Video. There's like I posted this. I said like, there was like the video package was like 5.5 minutes long. And if you watch that video package and had not watched WWE programming in like 3 years, you would be just
that caught you up, right?
Caught it, you know exactly where we are, like right there. Bro, they do that so well, you know. And it was just one of their better. They actually had it on SmackDown. They showed it on SmackDown first, but they showed it again in the paper because it was so good, you know. But but yeah, that was an excellent package. If you guys want to, if anybody's like interested in watching that,
I just thought all around very good show, very good show.
Right.